Happy Feature Friday.
Friday.
Halfway through May already. How did we get here?
Crazy.
Insane.
Wild. Good to see everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. It's great to see everyone.
We've got a bunch of fun stuff to talk about.
Hat Day.
Also, it's
Is.
it's always good vibes when um at least two of us are in the purple crew neck, and we got three today, and Kelsey's got her hat on, so we're good.
Yeah, I was saying this is also hats, but my hat is special. I actually rhinestoned it with purple rhinestones, so it's now
Ooh.
exclusive and different.
Now I want a rhinestone hat's hat.
I know. I don't have any extra hats, but I have plenty of rhinestones. There's a rhinestone store near me. You can buy them in major bulk.
There's a, is the whole store about rhinestones?
It is. It's called beads. And so
Okay.
it also has beads, but it's beads and rhinestones. Yeah.
I
I
would have to
got
find
locked out
one.
of my car there once and had to call my dad and be like, "Can you pick me up from the rhinestone store?"
Oh, man.
Yes.
Well, we've still got people coming in from the waiting room, but it is 12:03 and we want to respect everyone's time. So let's go ahead and get started with officially with Feature Friday here. Welcome to Hats Feature Friday. My name is Mark Leeper, and why don't we get the chat going? Looks like the chat's kind of already going, but let's get the chat going with something that you either used Hats for today or you're planning on using Hats to do today. I'd love to see what everyone's up to. Um, First announcement is our next roundtable is coming up very quickly, actually. It's on June 3rd. We try to keep these to the first Wednesday of the month, which in this case would be June 3rd. So Kelsey's got the link in the chat. Kelsey, because a lot of people are in the chat, you might need to drop it a few more times just to keep it the top of mind. But go ahead and register for the roundtable. The roundtable is the really the best place to hear from the whole Hats team, all the different departments, everything from go-to-market strategies. You'll hear from another MSP about how they're approaching going to market with Hats and what's working for them. You'll also hear from our head of product, Matt, who actually is I believe I saw Matt in here today. Matt goes through some of the top releases of the past month in more detail, and then gives you all a sneak preview into what might be coming up next. And Jimmy's always there to share some words of wisdom. If you missed the roundtable, it is recorded and put on our YouTube channel. So don't worry if you can't make it at that time. And Kelsey, I wanna ask you what's going on in Kelsey's corner.
What's going on in my corner is a lot of bedazzling, as we started with. Yeah, we have a couple weeks at home for the rest of May, and then there will be a handful of us at PAX 8 Beyond in Salt Lake City. That is the first week of June. And then I'll be at Roost's Flow event in Nashville a little bit later in the month. We've got a lot of fun and exciting places we're going to be. Um, what else do I talk about here? Oh, tip of the week. My tip of the week is my favorite tip. Repurpose what already exists. Don't go out of your way, specifically in a marketing context. Don't go out of your way to make all sorts of new things. You can take a webinar that you and your team hosted that you worked on and ask Hats to make 10 social media posts about it, write 3 emails, give you talk tracks based on items that you already have that already exist. So stop doing too much work, use what you already have, breathe a little bit easier. That's what I got for you.
Awesome. Yeah, there's like I don't even know 1,000 templates in the workshop and tons of ways that you can not reinvent the wheel every time you have a use case idea. Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. I'm looking forward to being at PAX 8 with you. It'll be great to actually see a lot of our partners in person. So All right, a few AI adoption and education updates before we get into our new features. First, if you were here last week, you heard that the Hatz Lab is moving to a monthly event. This is really exciting because it lets us really put a lot more resources behind making it a better experience for everyone and planning ahead for all of the use cases and topics and themes. So, speaking of themes, this is subject to change, but the topics for the next 6 months are listed here. One of the best, most impactful use cases that we found is something as simple as web search tools. And so this month in May, on May 20th, we're going to be doing a deep dive into web search tools and hats, what they are, when to use them, some simple use cases that work across industry, across verticals, and anyone can wrap their head around. We're going to do that in the chat. So we're going to get to see how to do auto tool, which tools are good for what. You might not know what Firecrawl is or Perplexity, but you will after this event. And then we're going to move into agents and workflows and build something that can create a repeatable process that involves web search tools. I know our we're going to have some more info that you can share out with your clients when we get closer to the date. But again, these topics are subject to change, but these were some of the most requested topics to cover. Bring your clients, bring prospects if they're curious about what hats can do, and we're going to cover these things in detail. And I believe lastly on my slides here, we have a link. Kelsey, if you can share the link to the interest form. I want to be clear that this is just an interest form for the next cohort of the AI adoption leadership bootcamp. We ran our first cohort in the month of April, and we got good feedback on it. We're still, collecting data, collecting a lot of the projects that people completed for those and going through those. So there's still a lot that we have to do before we launch the next one. And we want to make sure we're going to cover the right material. It's going to be the best possible experience for all of you. So if you are interested in joining the next AI Adoption Leader Bootcamp, or if you want to take it again, you can do that. Um, First cohort, just got certified. So if you want to join the next one, just fill out that form. We will let you know when we're going to launch it. We'll give you plenty of heads up. It's not going to start next week or anything, so don't worry about that. We'll let you know, but it is a 4-week program. Oh, and then lastly, YouTube got a lot of videos coming out next week. A lot. So get ready. And then, Mike, do we have a use case highlight, or are we going to go with mine today? I think we're going to go with
We're going with yours today.
yeah,
We did not get anybody to run into, but this is a great time to plug. If anybody would like to be featured
yeah,
as a partner on our use case highlight sessions during Feature Fridays, feel free to reach out to us. Or just throw it in the chat, and we'll get in contact and we'll get you set up for getting on Feature Friday with us.
yeah. I don't have a standard use case to show. What I'm going to do instead is talk about something because you are in an exclusive group here. If you come to these Feature Fridays and you come to the Hats Roundtables, you are in the fraction of a percent of people who are using and adopting AI. Most people and most business leaders are not as well versed in AI and use cases as you all are. And I was reminded of this very clearly yesterday. I was at an event with one of our MSP partners who had just signed up a few dozen clients, and they all came into the office for a hands-on training. And the use case that blew their mind was not an agent, it wasn't a multi-step workflow, it wasn't a bunch of integrations going to their CRM or Microsoft. It was literally just go into the chat, say, my company name is, fill in their company name. Can you tell me everything you can find about my company? Subagents kicked in. We didn't even turn on web search tools. We just let the subagents do their thing. Subagents kicked in. It was returning so much information about their company. Some stuff they didn't know was out there. They didn't know where it was published. And they said, "How did it know this about my company?" And we said, "Well, ask it. What website did it get this information from?" And it was showing them things from Reddit, things from different blog posts, press releases, anything that they didn't really know was out there. They were able to track it down. It was so impactful and such a simple use case, right? Something that I think a lot of us might take for granted. But when you're out talking to your clients, go simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It's those very, very simple use cases like that that applies to them because it's about their business and they can do something with it. They can go and figure out what's out there. Maybe they maybe they don't like what's out there. They want to put more information out on their website so other information gets surfaced. Great use case just across the board. So keep that in mind as you're out talking to clients. It's okay to go really, really simple when you're demoing. And with that, I believe, Ali, I'm going to hand it over to you. Do you want me to keep sharing or do you want to share your screen, Ali? You are muted.
It's been a long day already, and it's only 12 o'clock. Can't even come off mute. It would be helpful if you could share, if that's okay
Yeah,
with
of
you. Okay,
course.
cool. Alrighty. So, um, let's jump in. I have a bunch to talk about today. I'm very excited. I think I have some real crowd pleasers for this group. So let's jump in. So first, a bunch of fixes and improvements. We actually got feedback from a partner that was like, "Hey, I actually looked at your changelog, and sometimes you guys post like some smaller wins on there that we don't highlight on Feature Friday that we think you should celebrate more." And we all know my favorite thing to do is hype up our engineering team. So we're going to start talking about them a little bit more. So some fixes and improvements I wanted to highlight here. And as always, when we do a release, there's tons and tons of things that go on behind the scenes that we don't always talk about, but these are some big ones. Faster workshop loads. So if you're looking for things in the community, if you're loading your previous apps, agents, workflows, much faster. I noticed it immediately this morning, which was a big win. If you are using an app or an agent and it's on an LLM that was rate limited, it will fall back into light auto mode more efficiently. And when there was a small bug last week that some users reported where they couldn't set their default auto LLM. It was going to the last one you used personally as to the one you saved. So that was fixed as well. And then we've got a great update. I actually was testing and playing around with this one this morning. When you generate a PDF, the name now shows more reliably, as well as two changes for our admins specifically. If you had an issue syncing LMS users, so if you were pulling an LMS report and you were like, huh, I feel like one or two users are missing, or maybe my whole team's not represented, we fixed an issue where if the user had changed their email in the LMS in some way, shape, or form, mostly in changing the casing of the letters. It wasn't syncing perfectly. That was cleaned up and fixed, as well as admins can update their billing address and email from the billing page. So this was a great win for us. Some quick ones.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Mark, I'm actually going to ask you maybe to refresh. Oh, wait, just kidding. Just kidding. I was going to hide this picture, but I guess it just came right through. It didn't give the excitement here. We have major improvements to ConnectWise. Major improvements to ConnectWise. This was supposed to show confetti. I thought I figured it out, but I guess I didn't do it right. Mark, you could go to the next slide. Alrighty. So when we're looking at the ConnectWise improvements, from the engineer JJ, who spent a ton of time also working on our auto task integration, if you've been part of that testing, I asked him, how would you explain to our MSPs like what we did with ConnectWise, what makes it better? And he said basically we gave the AI more freedom to use the API like a real person would. So kind of one of those fun use AI to use AI. We're using AI for you to use AI to use AI, right? We just love to say use AI here. But basically, in the improvements made to the ConnectWise integration, it will function very similarly to the auto task integration. It has access to tons and tons of the things that many of the people on this call have been requesting. tickets, search, get, all different things. Basically what we did, just to give some more context, plug Canny early on in my conversation with the team here. We went through Canny, we went through the countless requests that have been sent in to help at Hatz, collaborating with the feedback that McPadden has gotten and Mark, in working with all of our different MSP partners who want to leverage this integration in a certain way. And we took a really, really long list of all of the things that you guys wanted to see and how you wanted to use the tool. And we threw it in AI and we said, AI, what tools and what access in ConnectWise would an MSP partner likely need in order to be able to accomplish all of these things that they want to do? And basically, it kind of gave us a list of all the tools. Obviously, we got a bunch of feedback, and our engineering team is great and did some deep research on ConnectWise as well. But in working backwards from the things our partners have asked for or wanted to see, or the specific use cases that we were looking to accomplish, we were able to knock out a lot of really, really big requests. While also following this new pattern of connections that our team is working on to help you access these tools that you're working with in a better way and making them feel more like a person would be searching as opposed to, back in the day when we had to map fields to fields exactly. So this ConnectWise integration was released last night. It's not in a beta and it's not in a feature flag. To be honest, we did debate doing something internally, but like that. But we thought, what's better than just giving all of our partners access? And also, we had some really good, fun time testing this. So the ConnectWise integration is live. If you were already connected to it, there was nothing you have to do. It just should feel substantially better.
Allie, there were a few questions about this, and we're going to answer some. You don't have to answer all of them here. But one that I think is maybe good to talk about is kind of a fundamental question of how AI uses these tool calls. One of the questions was, do I have to actually type CW underscore who underscore ant? No.
I would
Can
spell it
you,
wrong. I would spell it
yeah,
wrong. I'm a
can you,
horrible speller, so I would spell it wrong. Thankfully, we don't have to do that.
so can you just speak a little bit to that? If you ask AI to, close a service ticket, it'll figure out which one of these to use, right?
Exactly that. So, the great thing about using AI, right, is we keep everything conversational. I know sometimes when we release new integrations, sometimes it's helpful for people to kind of see these tools in this kind of layout and format, because you can kind of, you could always ask Hatz, right? Like, what can the CW underscore close underscore ticket tool do, right? And Hatz will give you a really good breakdown of what the tool can do. Or you can just say, can you close a ticket and ask that way conversationally? The great thing about using a Hat's native integration or even a custom MCP server, and the real power of AI is that it allows us to keep everything conversational, right? So you don't have to be super technical. That exact field to field or data point to data point match that, used to drive people working in data nuts, having to get exact matches and exact pairings. That is gone when we work with AI. We don't have to worry about that. We can be conversational. If you are working in chat and you want to be like the rest of the Hat's office, who just speaks to their computers all day, we don't even type anymore. You can also leverage the speech to text function. The people sitting next to you may not love it. But we, as I was preparing to kind of understand how to use ConnectWise, and Mark, actually, if you could go to the next slide, because I think it might be helpful. As I was preparing to go through ConnectWise, using speech to text, I said, Hatz, tell me how, if I'm an MSP and I'm going to turn on the Hatz ConnectWise integration, how would I maybe want to use it? Or what are some things that I would do? And it gave me this great list: find and read tickets, agreements, contracts, log time against tickets or projects, add notes, close, ticket transitions, right? All of these great things that somebody may want to use. Very simply by just turning on the integration. And, didn't even type a word, just asking Hatz, how would somebody maybe want to use this? And I'll say this is super helpful for me, right? I'm not an MSP. I've worked with MSPs for many years, but I'm not in the trenches of ConnectWise. I don't know all the elements. I do know a little way too much about it now, after prepping for this integration. But this is a tool that I want to make sure that my partners see so much value in, that I can help them, bridge the gap between what does it mean to actually be connected to it, and how can I get some value out of it, and how can I start, optimizing my team and my workflow. And AI can help you do that. So keeping it conversational, you never need to know anything too technical about tools or setups. Typically, the most technical part is, setting it up, right? And with most of that, it's a email and a login or generating an API key. So if you are interested in, if you're newer to Hats and you're playing around with any of our integrations, or you feel nervous approaching an end customer and talking about an integration because you don't feel like you know the platform, or you don't know all the tools and all the tech specs, you don't need to. All you need to know how to do is, you actually don't even need to know how to type. You just need to know how to hit the little microphone button. But all you need to know how to do is just kind of start asking questions. And as somebody who asks a million questions, you can ask our engineering team here in the Hats office. As someone who's always asking questions, AI is like my best friend, right? All day long, I'm in Hats. If I overhear someone say something in the office, if I hear a partner say something, if I want to get an understanding of what my partners are looking for, right? All day I'm in AI asking away, and I never actually have to know anything that technical. Um,
Really, that's a great point because there's a lot of questions also about, will it be able to do this and will it be able to do that, and just kind of interpreting what these actions are. Something that I do, especially with new integrations, as I'm trying to help people figure out how to use them, is I'll just turn that integration on, that little connection in chat, and I'll
yep,
ask it. I think Ali, you said this. What actions, what tool calls do you have available? And it'll list them all out like this, and you can say define what those are, tell me what that means, and then you can take it the next step and say, would it be possible for me to, and then describe the process that you want to do, right? You can even describe the process of a workflow that you're thinking about creating, or
yep,
something that's triggered by a webhook, or an agent that you're trying to build. And you can describe that process and ask AI using these tool calls, is this going to be possible, or is there anything you can't do? And it'll tell you, I'm going to use this one for this, and you can say, write the system prompt for me. And then
yep,
you turn on the Hats Workshop Assistant and you say, all right, now go build the workflow for me. So you can get AI to do all of that work, explaining what these all mean, listing them out, explaining all of them,
yep,
talking through a process, writing the prompts, and then actually building the use case itself, all from the chat.
yep. And Mark, I'm sure you're doing it too, but I am doing that all day, every day,
Yeah,
in the Hats platform.
yeah.
So yeah, alrighty.
All right.
And I see that there's a bunch popping up, in a bunch popping up, questions popping up on the side. Um, I just want to make it clear, this is an integration we built. This is not through any other platform or tool. So I saw there was like some mentionings of things, and this is a Hats native integration. So alrighty. As we're going through here, there's a new sidebar. So if you were working in chat this morning, and this is actually also available, these icons and loading here that we'll talk about in a second is also available in workflows. You'll see some changes, but um, we are working with a lot of files. If you are generating files, if you're uploading files, the old layout was just a little hard to maybe track and manage. And sometimes we felt like we were losing some of the really great work that we did. So in this new sidebar here, which is our new sources modal, it's just moved to the right side of the screen. But it's so much better organized. You can see your files up at the top. Those would be the files that you have uploaded, and then you can very clearly see the files that you've generated in the chat at any point. So there's no more scrolling up, scrolling down, looking for the link. It's very, very easy to manage and kind of work through your workflow, especially when you're working with a bunch of files. With that being said, we also now officially in Hatz have over 60 supported file types. So last night in the release, so last week in the release, we did audio files. Last night in the release, we did a big emphasis on, some code files and some structured and config text files. Also zip files. If you're looking to get those into Hatz, that can all go into Hatz. So we now have over 60 supported file types. Odds are, if there's something you're looking to get into Hatz, you can get it into Hatz and interact with it and play with it however need be. I will say we also did some great updates to the way that we are processing files, but also the ways that we handle generated files. And we've got more to come on that. So
Ellie, if I can just ask a question back here on this. To
yeah,
me, this is probably one of the most important updates I
yes,
know there's a lot that we have today, but the generated by AI files, it changes the way that you get this link. If you ask AI to create a Word doc or a PDF or something, instead of getting that link or sometimes not getting the link, right? The AI says that it created it, but then it's actually up in the code, in the
yep,
Python sandbox, and you have to find it. Um, this just puts it right here, so you can go and
yes.
download it, right? You don't have to worry about AI maybe not giving you the link or whatever. It still creates it, but it'll put it right here in this modal.
Yeah, and another question that I just saw pop up that I want to make sure we cover, asking if these links still expire after an hour. No, they don't. They're persistent in the chat now. That was a big part of this update. So they'll stay loaded in the chat. For around 30 days, I want to say. Yeah, Mike McPadden jumping in there. From 30 days from when you last engaged with the chat, for right now. So when you're working in these chats, and you're generating them, you're going to see that when it's saved in this little generated by AI, bucket here, in that persistence file saving, you're going to be able to go back and access it. So part of the reason for rolling out this new sidebar is what I was calling it. I know the technical term is the sources modal, but I thought a new sidebar sounded more fun. As you're going in and you're looking at this new sidebar, you'll see those generated by AI files are also called out because you can go back to them, which is a big part, which is a big exciting part of this feature. And something that, when we're going back and reaccessing chats, or, if you're like me and you're working through documentation and you want to reference, two old files from OneDrive, one file that you uploaded that you're working with, and then the two files that you just generated. Maybe it's some customer facing docs and some team facing docs. It's very easy to go in and see, but also you can go back and access and download those newly generated files very, very easily from the sidebar. So,
And there was a question just about the how do you get to this sidebar? It's the same as adding files,
yep,
as same as it used to be. You just click the plus, and instead of it popping up as a separate window, it opens up just like the toolbar.
yep, right there on the side.
Yep.
So, yep,
Cool.
we didn't change too much on you. It's in the same spot. It just pops up somewhere else. Alrighty. This, I think it's so funny. We always laugh and not laugh, but we always chat in the office on Thursday night in the middle of the release. And, I'm talking about what I'm talking about on Feature Friday and what I'm most excited to talk about. And there's always a little running, what do we think partners will be most excited about? And it's funny because the engineering team is usually way off because what they're most excited about is usually not what you guys are most excited about. And last night there was like a general consensus that we think this is what people are going to be most excited about. I pushed back on ConnectWise, but if you're not a ConnectWise partner, maybe not. But continue in chat. If you are working with a workflow, and you want to take either the entire workflow, or just one step of the workflow and throw it into a chat and, keep iterating off of it, you can now do that. Super simple. I actually demoed it here too in this little clip here. from a previous workflow run, because it doesn't have to be just in the initial run. You can go back to previous workflow runs and get it from there. But if you click the continue and chat button at the top of the screen, it will take all of the outputs, as well as show you the run number up at the top so that you can reference it, and the list of your inputs. Um, then it'll take all the outputs, including files, and including images. Take that, put it in a new chat, and you can start working from there. So again, you can do this with the entire chat. I'm sorry, with the entire output of the workflow run or step by step. This was a big ask, especially, if you have a really big complex workflow and there's just one research step in the middle and you want to click into that, or one, little piece and you want to click into that. This was a big ask. All right, I think we might have just lost Mark on the deck there. Hold on 1 second. I can, 1 second here. I can pull it up. Bear with me, everyone. Sorry, technical difficulties on this Feature Friday. All right, let's see. Let's see if I can get this to go here.
I got it, Allie.
Are you sure? Here, hold on. Sorry, everybody. A tech company having technical difficulties. Thank you, Rachel.
Here to save the day.
Okay, so like we were saying, continue and chat, right? You take one step, or you take the whole workflow. I really want to highlight what we were mentioning before, though, where we said that the files and the images get passed along with it. This is huge for, all different types of workflows. But really for those ones, I'm excited for getting the whole output in there, but I was most excited for this feature, for being able to click into one single step. And also Mark and I were talking about kind of using it in a way where you could then, I got this output from this workflow step and it's just not what I wanted. I wanted it to be more like this or help me perfect it. And then if you wanted to get really crazy, you could, write up a new prompt to get it better for that step in chat and kind of work in chat to optimize that workflow. Turn on the workshop assistant, and go back and update that step. So I know we just got, 10 different places from that one. That's a complex use case there. But I'm really excited for this when, I'm working on a multi-step workflow and I want to really optimize it. Sometimes the best way to do that is to critique one of the results, and one of the steps to get it to be exactly what you want it to be. And this is a great spot for that. All righty. So this was actually something that we snuck in Tuesday night. So if you were in Hatz and you happened to find this before last night, this we snuck in Tuesday night, and this is the model multipliers tab. So what does this mean? We're going to pull back a little bit, but just know that this is how we're getting there in the UI. But basically, what the model multiplier gives you is just a faithful comparison before you choose a model without having to do token math. So if we go back a couple weeks when we released auto model routing, you know that I'm a big supporter of, I just turn on auto model routing and like 95% of the time I'm just letting it rip in light mode. And I'm actually never really thinking about the different LLMs, because I think there's 60, 80. I can't even remember how many we have in the platform right now. Maybe it's probably 70. There's so many LLMs in the platform, and they're all good, right? Fundamentally, for most of the things that I'm working on, like all of the models in the platform can help me get where I need to go. And I do not like to think about switching back and forth. And too many options for me, sometimes in my workflow might actually slow me down. So I'm an auto model person through and through. Even when I'm, playing around in other AI platforms and trying them out and testing them out, I also actually, if they have an auto mode, I stick to that because I've played around with enough LLMs to know that for my use cases, they typically can all get me to where I need to be. So with that being said, However, a lot of our partners and their end customers, when they're trying out the Hatz platform or when the new latest and greatest LLM comes out, we have that conversation of like, okay, well, which one am I using? Which one should I be using? And the big thing, right? Well, which one's going to use the most credits? Um, there are so many ways that, we could try to display, what's going to use credits, how this is going to use credits. But the new HAT standard and typically the industry standard is this model multiplier number. So what does the model multiplier mean? Well, we've chosen a baseline flagship model, not claiming it as our model, but just, pretty much what the industry standard is seen as, which right now is ChatGPT 5.1, basically like the in that middle performance mode model, right? It's not going to cost you a ton, but it's strong. It's right there in the middle. So that is our flagship model. Again, not our model, but the model we're using as our baseline. And as you're kind of selecting other models and working with other models, you can kind of judge based off of that to see how many more or less credits a model would use in comparison. So if we're looking here and we're looking at all the different models multipliers, if you're going to pull in the big guns and use an Opus or some heavy model, that's going to use around 5 or 7, whatever the multiplier says at the table, more credits. That's really how we can think about it, right? So if I'm going to use the standard baseline, follow all the average usage patterns and hats, and I'm going to use one of those 1x models, I know that that's kind of my baseline. If I wanted to switch to say, uh, let's see, one of the ones on here, if I wanted to switch to Grok 3, I know, or Claude 4.5 Opus, I know that's going to use, 3 times more credits than if I was to use a baseline model. And then if I was going to use one of the lower cost models, I could see the multiplier there as well in how many less credits I would use. A big highlight with the model multipliers in this table specifically is that at Hatz, we love to do promotional pricing, right? So if we can find a way to provide tokens for less, and, drive our partners to, models that will cost them less credits, we're going to do so and we're going to flag it as a promo model. So that is what this model multiplier table, that is what the intention of it was to do. If you're looking at the model multiplier table, there is also a great link at the bottom that takes you to an article and explains what a model multiplier is and why we use them. But this is kind of like your no thought process, understanding the impact of switching between LLMs. I'm not going to say it's not tied to pricing because obviously it's tied to pricing, but this isn't a multiplier to define true cost. This is a multiplier to weigh the difference in how many credits selecting that model will consume. Alrighty, I feel like that was a long one for this slide. Alrighty, let's keep talking about some fun credit stuff. Alrighty, so this kind of gets us into the conversation of what is a credit and why does Hatz use credits? In reality, if we were to do like per token pricing for every single model, you as a partner or the end user would have a crazy pricing sheet of like 70 plus models and what the input tokens and the output token, it would be so much to juggle if we didn't use some universal unit of measuring AI usage. And we do this just like most of the AI providers do, because we're trying to be transparent in how much usage you get. But also we're trying to make it in a number that's manageable and measurable, not only for you, but also for your end customers. A lot of feedback we've gotten from our partners is that, AI pricing is confusing. No matter what platform you're in, no matter what model you're in, it's kind of hard to follow because it all goes back to the same question of what is a token? And we don't even always know what a token is, right? A token is some sort of measurement of syllables or letters. It might be different across different models and different providers. And there's so many different elements there. But at Hatz, as we talk about all the time, our key things for our partners is always feeling like they're in control, having transparency and predictable usage. That's been the foundation of us since Hatz has begun. So that is why we use credits. We use credits because they're stable, we're fully in control of them. As well as it doesn't give you this complex, heavy list of all of the different models and all of the different costs and all these crazy things that would be very hard to manage and honestly even harder to explain. Instead, when you purchase credits from Hatz, you get your credits. Your credits amount to your usage. And we're never going to rate limit you on things that you've already paid for. So it's a very clear metric of usage in the Hatz platform, transparent. What you pay for, you get to use. We're never, sending you to a different model or, rate limiting you midday because, you're deciding to use a lot of credits that day. What you've paid for, what your customers have paid for, that is yours. That is your usage. And all we can do is provide different ways that you can compare how those models will consume that usage in the platform. Like I said, the great LLM loop that I know Mark one time made a very funny cartoon about where it's best LLM, newest, best, greatest LLM, and it just loops between each provider as they continuously roll out new models. As more models are rolled out, right, prices always vary. Token prices go up, token prices go down. There's always all these types of changes. At Hatz, we're going to use that, standard credit to help you get the best understanding of your usage and also get the most out of your usage. All
I
right.
just want to make one small correction there, Ali. I'm super big on people plagiarizing whatever I create, but I didn't make that meme. I found that
Oh, you just
on
shared
LinkedIn.
it.
I just shared it. I think I did credit the person who created it, but there's lots of good AI memes out there if you know where to look. Um, Ali, can I ask a couple questions about this?
Let's do it.
Can we go back to the multiplier question or
Yeah,
the multiplier page? There are just a couple things that I wanted to cover off here. How did you get to this screen?
good question. I didn't walk us through that. So when you're going to your LLM selector, if you're in the LLM selector right now, if you're following along with us, you'll have the little click down, and you'll be able to click view all models, like view more models in the drop down. Um, when you get in there and you get this great all models view, there's two different tabs. You'll have your tab that you'll see here on the screen, right, where you have your little browse tab and you can see all the different LLMs. You can filter by provider. And then you also have the multipliers tab that you can flip to that will take you right through it. This is for admins. This is for end users. This is for everybody. So the model multiplier is really what you should be using or what your customers should be using if they're going to, go rogue and pick a model for themselves or try out a different model to understand the implication of what switching that model is. This was something too we wanted to, really emphasize as these larger, and by larger, I mean higher credit consumption models come out. As the opuses and I'm sure there are more to come, the models that will consume a large amount of credits and are extremely powerful. As newer users are being added to the platform, or even your existing users who are used to just like playing around with the new models, this is where they should be able to go to look to say, oh, wow, if I switch to this model, it's going to use 7 times credits more or 10 times more credits than the baseline model.
And can you, we don't need to go too far into the numbers here, but I just want to make sure you said something very clearly before, and I just want to hear it again, that this is not a formula to use to know how many credits you're going to use. just because I'm using Claude Haiku for one and it takes 100 credits for this prompt and then I give it to GPT 5.5, it doesn't mean that it's going to use 700 credits. That's not an exact multiplier there, correct?
Yeah, yes, exactly that. It's not something, well, first, I guess we could go back and even say you could give the same prompt to the same model 10 times in any platform, and it's going to give you 10 different responses, right? So those responses that come out of the LLM, we don't control them, no one can control them. So you're always going to get a different response. But yes, to your point there, if you take the same prompt in one and the same prompt in another model, this is an estimation of how many more credits it would take, yes,
Yeah. It's
but
it's
not an
it's a
exact multiplier.
I'm splitting hairs, but it's because you're not gonna it's not gonna be, well, this was 100 and this was 700. Sometimes some models will use more tokens to do the same thing. That's what I'm getting at
Exactly.
here, Ali, right? So
Yep.
Haiku might use fewer tokens to do something than Opus 4.7. It's a better model for a reason. So you're not going to get a quick multiplier there. It's showing you with apples to apples the
Yep.
same number of tokens, what the difference is. But bigger models do more things under the hood.
Exactly.
Is that
Spot
clear?
on.
Okay.
Two more model, bigger model,
Bigger
the
model, more
higher level
token.
model.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly, exactly. And also, to talk about, what a credit is, and I know we've talked about this a few times, but a credit in Hatz is, your input tokens and your output tokens, and kind of, a little math around that. But in reality, as you're engaging with, chat or a workflow run, there also is, a variation between, if you're loading a lot of things in, you're going to use more input tokens. If you're, generating a bunch of content, you're going to use more output tokens. So the actions that you take in the platform, the model that you select, the integrations you have turned on, the size of the files you upload, there's all different things that impact how many credits you're going to use. The short, sweet, simple multiplier tab use is, that if I was to take this action in, let's say, Amazon Nova Lite, I'm going to use substantially less credits than if I was to take said action in one of the Opus models.
Like orders of magnitude fewer. There are real examples that we've seen of this where people are using Haiku 4.5 and literally consuming like 11 credits per prompt that they're giving it. And
Yep,
then GPT-5 is like, I'm not even going to do the math. It's much, much more because it's doing so much more. So these help you understand at a quick glance which models are in rates that are much higher. So
exactly. Exactly. And I think we had sent out a little survey we had a lot of fun internal conversations this week about credits and tokens. And, if you follow along in all the AI news and Reddit threads and all the things that we like to nerd out on in this office, you'll know that this is a huge conversation in the industry, right? The cost of AI tokens, is only increasing, and the transparency from other providers is not always clear. So here at Hatz, we're doing everything we can to make this as clear as possible and make sure that specifically you as the MSP admin feel fully in control. Alrighty. And with that, I think Rachel's still driving here, but we do have another, if we could go one more ahead. So there's tons and tons of ways that you can optimize your credit usage even more than just using the lower model. You can enable subagents. I think I'm like the number one pusher of auto LLM. You can use auto model routing. Let Hatz do the thinking for you. If you don't need the context from a previous chat, jump to a new chat. Use, a little bit smaller of a chat. If it doesn't need all of that previous context, keep referencing and referencing and referencing, you're going to use less credits. Um, Also, if you're using a chat over and over and over again, and you're trying to get the same steps, make it a workflow. So, and I see someone just said, what does that mean? Do workflows use less credits? It's not that workflows use less credits, but when you're engaging with a really, really long chat and you're trying to get it to repeat maybe the same action over and over and over again, um, you could just create that as that whole workflow that you're taking in the chat for each, individual data point or, reference piece, or if you're generating a bunch of articles or whatever your use case might be, make it a workflow because the single run of that workflow will take your prompt, and, those inputs that you give it and run it once, as opposed to the chat that's going to continuously keep referencing all of the context it has from how many times you've engaged with it before. Or create an agent so that the agent has all of the context that's already needed, and use the agent. But don't feel like you have to just keep going back to the same very, very long chat to get the same consistent results. That's the beauty of the Hatz platform. You can actually ask if you're one of those people right now, and I know it's been me in the past, where you keep going back to the same chat but looking for, different variations of the same output, literally ask the chat to write you the prompt. Hey, I've been asking you to do the same thing a bunch of times. Can you write a prompt on, can you write a prompt for me that I can use over and over again? These are the results you've been giving me are good, but I need something more repeatable. You take that prompt, you throw it in an agent, you turn on the Hatz Workshop Assistant, it creates the agent, it creates the workflow, right? That's a great way to use, to optimize your credit usage. And Rachel, I think you're still driving. If you could go to the next slide here. Alrighty. This is also something that I want to harp on, and I know we're coming to the end of time here. But if you're worried about a user, if you're onboarding a tenant and you're like, ooh, they haven't had a lot of experience with AI, like I want to make sure that they're not, going to use all my credits, or I want to make sure that everybody gets a fair shot at trying out the platform. This does not have to be, oh, they've used it and they've established usage patterns and let's go in and tighten things up. This is something that I would say you can implement from the jump. If you're worried about a user, Matt, our head of product, who I believe is on here, is said basically put the bumpers in place. I kind of went with the guardrails here. There's a typo. I did say I don't know how to spell. There's a typo here, but put the guardrails up. When we're talking about putting in place, some controls, custom roles, specifically usage caps and AI settings, is the best way to do so. Before a user even logs into the platform, you can have in control custom role that limits how many credits they can use in the platform. So only give them access to 5,000 credits, only give them access to a few thousand credits, maybe just for the first few weeks while they're getting in there and testing it out, and set them to auto LLM default light mode. The default light mode will allow them to get full usage of the platform, right? With just the less aggressive models. Now, if they have certain super aggressive use cases or you don't want to put these things in place, that's totally fine. But as you're onboarding newer users or your lighter users that are going to do things like write simple emails or just, small queries from their integrations or generate some basic content, right? This is huge. So this is the best way to kind of feel in control in the beginning. Alrighty, let's keep going here. If you have something you want to see, go to Canny. If it's a feature you want to see, product feedback. If you want to see things that we've done because you feel like you missed something, go to the changelog. If you want to learn about things when we release them, the second that we release them, subscribe to our changelog. And then I'm going to fly through the last two slides here. Sorry, a lot of yapping today. This is our feature preview. This is the newest section of Feature Fridays, for me at least. Feature preview is things that we are, raising our hands and asking our partners, test it, raise your hand, let us know if you want to give us feedback, but know that it is not fully supported by support yet. Documentation may still need to be updated. We may still be, crossing our T's and dotting our I's on the features, but with that, Mark, if you could go to or Rachel, sorry. If you're testing a preview, if you're interested in being part of our feature preview, email to request access, product feedback at hatz.ai. Tell us who you are and who you want to be testing. We're never ever going to enroll an entire tenant in testing unless explicitly specified. So if you email and say, "Hey, I would like access to the auto test testing," you will get access. If you email and say, "Hey, here's the 6 people with their emails that I would like to give access to," you will all get access. Share feedback, ask questions, and you can join brainstorm sessions. Alrighty. So our 2 feature previews, Autotask. We talked about ConnectWise. Now we're also talking about Autotask. With Autotask, built very similar to the improvements to ConnectWise. If you are not yet a tester, email product feedback at Hatz.ai and we will get you in there. I will say we've gotten very little feedback on it, which we're like, other than actually, that's a lie. We've gotten some partners that have said it's really good. And then we've gotten other feedback from partners asking to add more people. So with that, we think that this is going well. So with this going well, this will probably roll out to GA soon. But if you are in the feature preview and or if you want to be added, reach out. And I just saw somebody say that they reached out and they didn't get it. I will follow up on that one and make sure you have access. Alrighty. And then we have one more feature preview, which is compliance and logs. Compliance and logs has been in feature preview for a few weeks now. It will probably remain there for another week or two. Compliance and logs is 2 different tabs. We have our invocations tabs and our audit events tabs. If you're interested in gaining access to this, again, reach out and just specify that you would like access to this. We also just shipped we just shipped new documentation to this last week. So if you were in the testing, you should have gotten an update about that as well. And I just saw Nicole Levsky say, I just saw a question and I lost it. Compliance and logs, we do not have an estimated date for when it will be fully available. We are still working on testing, gathering a lot of feedback. Our partners in the initial wave gave us really great feedback. Our partners in the wave that we brought on last week gave us even more great feedback. So we're still working and perfecting this feature. However, if you get access to the testing, it is fully available, fully functionable, and accurate. However, it just still needs a little bit of refinement in terms of the way that it looks. So it will stay in feature preview. That is the end. I really did a mad dash at the end there. That is the end of the content that we have for you today. We will export the chats and go through all of the requests, questions, and comments on here. I know there were a bunch of questions. We engineers just did so much work that I didn't get time to get to them at the end. But they will be exported and we will follow up. Also, I saw a few people say that they asked for access and they didn't see it. Please check your spam filter and make sure that it's not stuck there. I did have a partner discover that we were stuck in their spam. And I have switched from reaching out from our product at feedback directly from my email, Ali at Hatz. So anyone that didn't get the message, I will follow up with you direct from my email, probably off the thread, just to make sure.
And Ali, there was one other question here from James about some of the things that the compliance and logs include, some of the interactions, some of the auditable events.
Yeah.
This is why we want people to test, right? This is why we want feedback like that. We're not saying this is the final list. We iterate on everything. So if if you have access to that and you say, for this industry or for this type of compliance that this client needs, this would be really helpful for us to have. This would be a requirement. Like that's all good feedback that we can benefit from.
Yeah, we love feedback. And don't feel like you're just restricted to sending it to product feedback at Hatz.ai. If it's a feature you want to see or something you want to iterate off of and you think other people will want to see it as well, or you want to get, your other teammates to upvote it, put it on Canny. We are in Canny all day, every day. We've got AI going through Canny. We've got even a Slack message that comes in every time we get a new post in Canny. So we really, really, we host this call every week with an open chat, hoping for feedback, right? So our goal is to help answer the questions for you, help you answer questions for your end customers, but also help give you the features that help you use Hatz, help you feel like you're in full control of Hatz, and of course, help you sell Hatz. So our job is to help answer questions and ship features of things that you want to see. But if you don't ask questions and tell us what you want to see, it makes our job way harder. So communicate with us as much as you can. It's this Feature Fridays call. I looked down at one point today, and I think there were 110 people on, which is crazy. That we can get that many partners on a Friday morning or evening or afternoon. So as always, we greatly appreciate your time. I know, especially as an MSP, there's always a million things you guys could be doing. So taking time every week to learn from us and chat with us and give us some feedback is greatly appreciated. And you know all the channels and all the ways to connect with us. And I know we're a minute over, but hopefully we see you next week.
Thanks, Allie. Great job.
Bye, guys.
Bye.